And welcome back to Beerfield Fantasy Football Shots. I am your host at Hop BFF, Christopher Hopper. It is Monday, September 11th, 2017, and we're here with your news episode today. So we're going to talk about the latest on the David Johnson injury, the latest on the Allen Robinson injury, as well as the latest on Andrew Luck, Ezekiel Elliott's legal issues with the NFL, and anything else that's happened since we recorded, the podcast episode yesterday. So before I get started here, as always, you can listen to the podcast, subscribe, download it, let us know what you think. We are on iTunes, Google Play. That is Beerfield Fantasy Football. We are also on Stitcher. Anywhere you get your podcast, will be there. I am at Hot BFF on Twitter. That is with 2 P's. You can also follow at ThurryBFF and at Nick Sparts. For the show, we are at Beerfield FF on Twitter. So that's the absolute quickest way to get you to answer your questions and to, get us to respond to news or anything that happens in the NFL. But these videos also do come out daily, so subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like what you hear. Let us know what you think. We're always looking for feedback. What are we doing good? What are we not doing good? So without further ado, let's get into the news because we got a lot of it. News. So David Johnson's to miss 8 to 12 weeks with a wrist injury. The initial report was it's actually the same prognosis as TJ Logan, who is going to miss time with the wrist injury. This is generally not good. If you're a David Johnson owner, you're probably asking yourself at the moment, what do I do? How do I make this okay? So here's what Arizona's doing. Kerwin Williams is the handcuff per Coach Bruce Arians. He is the backup. He is going to be the lead running back. Andre Ellington did split time with Kerwin Williams after David Johnson's injury yesterday, and they are signing DJ Foster from the Patriots practice squad, who looked really, really good in preseason. Kerwin Williams will get the first crack at this. His upside is going to be limited, but he will get the first crack at this job. So you want to go out and pick him up if you're looking for a fill-in. Some other guys not related to Arizona that may be out there. Buck Allen, which is a direct response to the Danny Woodhead injury, so we'll get that. That's Javorius Allen, actually. Javorius Buck Allen. And then Tariq Cohen, who had a huge day yesterday, could also be some viable fill-ins. So keep your eye out there. Another one that may be floating around on the waiver wires that looks to get more work is DeAndre Foreman. Lamar Miller was inefficient again. So stay tuned. As we find out things, we'll let you know, but that is the latest. On to Jaguars. More terrible news. Allen Robinson has torn an ACL. We discussed this at length in the podcast that came out earlier today. However, Marquise Lee looks to be the guy that's going to come out there and fill in. He was the most efficient of the two. Allen Hurns should also see an uptick. Now, keep in mind that after Robinson went out, they barely threw the ball. They leaned on Leonard Fournette heavily, with Blake Bortles only throwing the ball 17 times. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a high-volume passing offense if that's how they want to run it. But one of those, they got to throw the ball to somebody is the advantage there. So me personally, I'm on Marquise Lee, but either one of those guys would be your pickup there. Some other guys on the waiver wire, Nelson Aguilar saw 8 targets for the Eagles, so he's not a bad fill-in replacement for that. Kenny Golladay was out there. He pretty much split time with Marvin Jones and pulled in 2 touchdowns. He's another good one to try and pick up. Kendall Wright should also be out there with a Kevin White injury. So we talked about Kevin White's injury yesterday on the podcast. It is on today's podcast, but just as a fill-in for that, since I mentioned it, Kevin White does have a broken collarbone. He's on IR for the season. Kendall Wright should fill in there as a top pass catcher with Josh Bellamy as the ancillary. Tariq Cohen actually led that team in targets. On to Zeke news. The NFL has officially appealed the Ezekiel Elliott injunction, so if that appeal is granted, the suspension could be back on the table. Don't expect it to be. Don't expect this process to be quick either. So for this foreseeable future, Zeke should be on the field. As we find out more, we'll keep you in the know, but that is the latest there. Andrew Luck has been ruled out for week 2. Not a huge surprise here. Earliest I expect him back is next week. I know Nick's been closer to 5 weeks, but he is out again this week. Your streamer fill-ins for that, Carson Palmer. I know it's gross. I'll talk about his performance later, but he is facing the Colts, who were completely toothless against Jared Goff. So Carson Palmer should be another solid offense if he didn't leave you sick to your stomach. If he did, Jared Goff, who performed, is going up against Washington. Carson Wentz is able to perform against them, so he should be okay, as should Alex Smith, who had a big week against the Patriots. So those are guys I'd be looking at to stream in Andrew Luck's absence this week. On to the Browns. Coach Hugh Jackson was non-committal on Kenny Britt as a Week 2 starter. So Corey Coleman led their wide receivers in targets. I think Kenny Britt had 1 catch, so not impressed there. I'm not sure who else they'd run out there, who they have that's better. So I would definitely expect Kenny Britt to still be out there as the veteran presence, but non-committal there. So keep your eye on it, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. On to something much more interesting to me. Texans coach Bill O'Brien has said DeAndre Foreman will see more carries. This is again after Lamar Miller was inefficient. It was a trend all last year. It's a trend again this year. He averaged 3.8 yards a carry. Foreman only carried 1 time. So expect Foreman to get some more work. If he flashes, if he's efficient, Lamar Miller continues to be inefficient, DeAndre Foreman's going to continue to take carries from him. So I would be wary of that if you're a Lamar Miller owner. And if you're looking for running back help, probably not a bad idea to swap up and stash DeAndre Foreman with this news. Eagles cornerback Ronald Darby to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a dislocated ankle. I know he's a cornerback, but he's opposite wholly underwhelming Jalen Mills. So this is going to weaken that secondary a little bit and your receivers against the Eagles. So be aware he is missing time. So if you got a wide receiver going up against the Eagles, their defense looked okay, but your wide receiver should be startable against this team. They're not going to be a shutdown passing game type of team. Over in Baltimore, Jeff Zrebeck reports that the fear is Danny Woodhead will miss significant time with his injury. So in his absence, Javorius Buck Allen and Terrence West split additional work about evenly. I think West had 19 carries. Buck Allen had 21. Buck Allen did have a target in the passing game as well. So if you're looking for a Woodhead fill-in and you're an owner, Terrence West was the more efficient runner. But if you're in PPR formats, go out and get Buck Allen because he should take over that Woodhead role as well as still have some involvement in the running game, especially if they don't want to completely lean on Terrence West, who at times in his career has been inefficient. So look for that. Buck Allen looked like the best running back in the preseason, so I think that he's going to see more increased workload. And matchup depending, it could be worth a flex start. Back to the Texans, Ian Rappaport reports Deshaun Watson will start week 2 for them. So Tom Savage got benched at halftime. He looked terrible against Jacksonville's defense. So Deshaun Watson came in. It looked a little better. It still wasn't necessarily pretty, but he's going to be the starter there from now on. As far as what you do with those wide receivers in relation to that, I don't think it necessarily changes their passing game or the scope of their passing game or anything. So I would definitely keep don't freak out about this. Don't overreact to it in a positive way either because Deshaun Watson is coming in. I think that it keeps things pretty level as to what we were expecting from that passing game. And finally, back to the Eagles. Caleb Sturgis is yet to miss 4 weeks with a hip flexor issue. No word yet on who they're signing as his replacement, but if you're a Caleb Sturgis owner, get a different kicker. I'm not going to give any analysis on that because it's a kicker, but go out and get a different one. And that's all we got for news today. The Monday night games are actually going to be kicking off here in about 40 minutes. One of the guys, I believe Nick, will be back with you tomorrow to talk news and any updates we have on these situations. Again, follow us on Twitter at BeerfieldFF. We'll be giving you almost instant reaction to things that happen as they break and as we find out about them. Otherwise, we will have another podcast out for you on Wednesday, and you can find that on iTunes and Google Play. Also, be sure to check out the Top Shelf and Well episode as I reflect back on the week to performers and non-performers. And that should be up now because I'm recording it right after I stop this one. Thanks. See ya.